Hello, my name is Brandon Devnich from Pegasus.com. I am the founder and primary developer of the Pegasaas Accelerator plugin, and today I'm going to take you on a walkthrough of the brand new version 3.0. If you've used Pegasaas Accelerator before, you'll immediately recognize that the interface has gone through a visual upgrade. Many of the elements load and render faster than in previous versions, and you'll find more information and usability in the interface. To start, at the top, you'll find the system state buttons Live, Staging, and Diagnostic. Live mode is fairly straightforward. It's when the system is on autopilot, automatically clearing cache as needed, automatically requesting pages, and generally just making your website faster, automatically without you needing to manage anything. Staging mode is where pages are not explicitly live unless you indicate that they should be. Otherwise, your unoptimized website will be served to your visitors. When you click the staging mode button, you'll be given a time frame for how long you want staging mode to remain active. After that time, the plugin will revert to live mode. This is meant for high traffic websites that don't have the ability to test with the plugin in a development or staging site, where it is critical to test the integrity of the pages prior to publishing the optimized page live. Keep in mind, the optimizations are designed to be stable out of the box. However, every website is unique, and there is always the possibility that some third-party component or widget that we haven't encountered before is not able to work with Pegasus. If you have a fairly complex site, you may wish to enable staging mode for the first few pages until you're confident that everything is working fine. To make an individual page live, you simply click the state to the left of the page title and select Make Live. Once you do that, the optimized page will become visible to your visitor. If you want to preview the optimized page while the page is considered in staging mode, you can again click the state and select Preview. Diagnostic mode is for when everything is not working fine. This happens for a small number of websites, but if you do encounter a problem, you can put the plugin into a diagnostic mode and then contact the support team. Moving on, you'll find the main web performance metric that we observe, the page speed score, in the center of the page. There are actually two page speed scores that you're able to view. The mobile, which is by default the one that is selected, and the desktop. You can toggle between these two just by selecting these two icons up at the top. We default to the mobile score because it is the true benchmark of a fast website. It's easy to achieve a great score for desktop, but because mobile devices typically connect via slower internet connections and have slower CPUs, it can be harder to achieve a fast rating on a mobile device. As more than 60% of internet searches through Google are now done on a mobile device, it is important that the mobile page speed score be the one that you focus on. Below the page speed score, you will find two other numbers, the baseline score and the boost achieved. The baseline score is your page speed score, in this case the mobile page speed score, of your website with Pegasaas Accelerator not serving an optimized page. Essentially, it's unoptimized. We do this to show you the effective change in score, which is what the boost achieved means. The difference here being 7 points. Optimized score, unoptimized score. Many websites will experience more or less depending upon what sort of scripts and resources are in the page. Below these two metrics, just outside the dial, are the projected bounce rate change and the projected conversion rate change. We can project the change in bounce rate based upon reduction of page load time. Studies have been performed, most notably by the SOA/STA Google studies, which found that there is a 7% reduction in bounce rate for every second of load time saved. When it comes to the conversion rate, where you're selling a product or getting someone to fill in a lead form, it has been found that there is a 12% increase in conversion rate for every second of load time saved. So that means if the projected bounce rate were to improve by 50%, and your bounce rate was already at 50%, then studies show that the bounce rate based upon those that are sensitive to load times would be cut in half to 25%. Conversion rate, if it was at 10% and if it were improved by 100%, would mean that your conversion rate would then become 20%. Keep in mind, these numbers are for just your mobile user segment. If your site is to a large extent desktop users, then you would need to factor in the desktop numbers by clicking on the desktop tab. As mobile users are becoming more commonplace in North America and in Europe, this mobile number will become more and more important to your website.
Below the large dial, if you're viewing an intermediate or advanced, you will find 6 smaller dials showing more detailed web performance metrics for your website. These metrics are not displayed in the novice view. The first metric shown is the time to first byte, which indicates how quickly the web server is responding. Next, you'll find the first contentful paint metric, which marks the time at which the first bit of content is rendered. The first meaningful paint measures when the primary content of the page is visible, such as images and fonts are fully loaded and rendered. First CPU idle marks the first time at which the page's main thread is quiet enough to handle input. Speed index is what we refer to as fully loaded time. This is often when the contents of the page are visibly populated, but it can also be later, such as when the background resources are completely loaded. Time to interactive is the amount of time it takes for the page to become fully interactive. It's these last 3 metrics which often impact the page speed score the most.
Below this, you'll find a menu bar with options available to you. The first tab selected is the Page Scores tab. You'll find a list of pages that have been accelerated and their web performance metrics. Beside the website page URL is a column that has icons that indicate whether or not the page has been optimized or is pending optimization. You can change the state of a page by clicking on the More icon that looks like 3 vertical dots. Here you can delete the optimized page cache and re-optimize immediately. By default, auto-crawling is enabled, so pages that have their page cache cleared will be rebuilt automatically. If a page is pending on being crawled, you can always request a priority optimization by clicking on the More button and choosing Optimize Now. This one is already being optimized. There it is. It's just turned green. The optimization has been complete and served back to the plugin. When a page optimization is requested, a temporary cache of that page, represented by the gray check mark that we saw, is created with an intermediate set of optimizations. Optimizations that can be performed within the plugin that do not require more intensive server resources. The optimization request is sent to the Pegasus API, and then it becomes queued. Once the optimization is started, it will go through a series of scans for critical CSS, image dimensions, and a few other trade secrets. And then the optimization transformations will be performed on the page. That request is then submitted back to the plugin, and the page is recached and the old temporary cache is deleted. This typically takes under 30 seconds, and in what we just looked at here, it was about 15 that we can count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It can take anywhere from 15 to 45. If the API is very busy, it can take 2 to 3 minutes as well. There we go. So that was about 15 seconds. So if the API is experiencing a higher load, and it does take a couple of minutes, that's why we create the temporary cache with some foundational optimizations to tide you over while the fully optimized page is produced. Moving to the right, you'll see the baseline scan and what each of these metrics recorded were for the unoptimized page. If you were ever to wish to rescan this page, either for the baseline scan or for the accelerated performance scan, you can click the More icon to the right and select Rescan Accelerated or rescan baseline performance scans. These scans take anywhere from 45 seconds to 3 minutes to complete. Again, if there's more in the queue in the API, it can take a little bit longer. We also give you the opportunity to take a look at the metrics for GT metrics, and you can independently verify the metrics with Google PageSpeed Insights. Right below, or just above I should say, you can also search for a particular page. If we wanted to select About, come up with the About page. If we wanted to select something a little bit more, maybe there were common pages, no. If we wanted to just delete and search all, it would then load up like this. If you've used the interface before in previous versions, you'll recognize that this is a much faster load. The next tab is the Settings tab. This page has been vastly updated with a focus on usability. While I won't go into every detail of the settings page in this particular tour, you understand that the settings are preset for your website. Should you find yourself as a web performance guru, you can go into the advanced settings. However, be warned that you can cause some turbulence if you enable or disable any of these settings from the default. The whole idea of Pegasus is that it is meant to be automated. She doesn't always take a liking to people messing around with her harness, if you know what I mean. The third tab is for support. If you run into a hiccup, please use this tab. We are dedicated to making sure that this product works for as many sites as possible, and we don't know if something is wrong if someone doesn't tell us. So again, please use the support form if you run into a display problem or there appears to be conflict with another plugin. We'd like to know. Next, you'll find the FAQs tab. Pretty straightforward here. We typically don't get too many common questions asked, but if it seems to be something that everyone would benefit from, we put it here. Troubleshooting is more of an in-depth technical FAQs page. Sometimes this is where the more uncommon questions go. The Tools tab currently has the list of post types in your site. So in this particular example site, we have pages and we have posts. Sometimes you have different types of post types as well. And here you can disable all or enable all if they weren't already enabled. The Changelog tab just shows a list of updates we've made over the last couple of years. You'll see that we may go a few weeks in between updates, and then other times we'll release 3 patches in one day. And the Cache tab on December 13th. This tab will give you the opportunity, if you're using the CDN, to clear specific points along the CDN system. So it's a troubleshooting section that has different scenarios that you can walk through, and this explains how the operation of the CDN works. From your visitor to the CDN edge servers, the reverse proxy optimization servers, and then your website, which is the origin server. If you're not using the CDN, then let's see how this looks here. Then the cache page will show something entirely different. It'll show you the locally cached images, style sheets, and scripts. Now, because everything had previously been pushed through the CDN, nothing has been populated in this page yet, but if there were something, you would have options to delete or re-optimize those assets and what your potential savings were for each of those assets. And then moving on to the final tab, the Advanced tab. This is meant primarily for troubleshooting. We don't recommend you go and clear any data here, but it does give the opportunity to clear specific data elements that the plugin uses in the background. If you hover over top of the Accelerator menu item, you will see the page optimizations that are cached and a couple different buttons in order to clear your cache if you're using the Content Delivery Network. If you're not using the Content Delivery Network, it will give you the ability to clear local images, CSS, and JavaScript. If you need to clear your entire site cache of HTML, just click that button there. So here we find ourselves on the Pages panel, where you would normally go to edit a page. And so with Pegasus installed, you'll notice 4 columns off to the right here. The first column is a toggle button that either enables or disables premium acceleration for your page. The next column is your page speed score. In this case, it is the mobile page speed score. The third column is your page load time. And the last column shows whether or not you have an active cache for that page. Green check mark means that you do. Gray check mark means that there's a temporary or intermediate level of cache. And if there is a little clock, it means that it's pending the auto crawl. When you hover over top of the page title, you'll find the clear cache or the optimize now link. You can clear cache simply by clicking this, and you'll notice that the icon over here changed to pending crawl. You can also select optimize now, and it will submit a request to the API. The temporary cache is shown in a gray check mark. You can enable and disable very easily by just selecting the toggle button. When you disable, it clears the cache. When you re-enable a page, we'll also make sure that there's no existing cache there, and then queue that page up to be crawled. You can move on to the editing of a page and find that there are additional options for Pegasus Accelerator on the right-hand side. If there's a page speed score for this page, we'll show it here, as well as the load time. But there are a number of other settings available that you can change on a page-by-page basis just off to the right.
And there you have it. The tour of Pegasus Accelerator 3.0. Hope you found that informative. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you again next time.